Hello, CMSI 1010. I think within the next 10 minutes, I can get you all set up with Git. I want to do it in a video format so you can go back and check your work and all that good stuff. All right, so at this point right now, we've created our CMSI 1010 folder. We've created 3 labs, but we don't yet have it connected to Git. We want to use Git to manage all of our files in here. Remember that find dot will show you all the files that you have. You can even do tree if you manage to download that. It's another thing to do, or you can just use VS Code. In VS Code, you can see that we have here our lab 1 with the README in it. Lab 2 has its own README. Lab 3 has a README. And then we have each of our folders and files going on here in VS Code. So VS Code is a helpful way to view your file systems as well. All right, so let's get everything connected to Git. So the way you do that, it's as simple as saying Git init. That means that now everything we do in our CMSI 1010 folder is now connected to Git. If we do an ls-a, we can see that there's a Git folder. Because this is now managed by Git, things like Git status will work. Right now, it says we have some untracked files, and if you would like to track them, it says to do a git add. I want to add everything in the current folder, so git add.works. Then git status says that you're now tracking these new files, but they haven't been committed yet. Commit means in Git that you take the current state of all your files right now and you kind of mark it as a commit, and you have like this point here that if in the future you can always go back to and you can keep a record of. So let's actually do a commit. And for that, we use git commit. Remember that git add just tracks them, but git commit actually does the commit. Commit always wants a message, which you prefix with -m. And then in quotes, we can write something like first 3 labs and hit enter. And you can see that a commit has been made. A way to see your commits is to say git log, and you can see that our commit is made here. If for some reason you want to do more work after that, like for example, go into lab 3's README and say something like we're just learning Git, that is all, and you hit, you save it, make sure you save it. Notice that now that we are using Git will give us more information. Like these files here are kind of in this yellowish color. That means that VS Code knows that they've been modified. But the way we can tell it's modified is to say git status on the command line. It says, look, oh, you made a change to lab 3 README. You can always do git diff to find out what changed. And you can see that the red part said, I used to have this line say we were just learning Git, but I made this change. And that's kind of cool, right? It says that a file has been changed. So we can set up to track that change, and then we can say what we did. And what we did was add a little to the lab 3 README. We hit enter. Don't forget, say git commit. Don't forget -m. Don't forget to, fully quote it, all that stuff. If not, Control C probably will fix things up for you if you make a mistake. And that's committed. And now if we do a git log, we can see that this was our first commit at about 325, and about 326, we made a second commit. So we're able to have all of our commits tracked just fine here on our own computer, but this is not tracked on GitHub. So how do we get things on GitHub? Well, let's jump over to GitHub. Let's click on our little plus button with the drop down and say new repository. And we'll create a new repository called CMSI 1010 and immediately scroll down to create the repo. Now, the repository is created, and it is suggesting that if you want to connect a Git repository that's on your own laptop, and you want to connect that to GitHub, then this is the command that you're going to use. All right. And so let's take this command, and I want to put this here in the terminal, but I don't want to hit enter just yet, because let's look at what this says. This line says, for the Git repository on your laptop, You want to connect it to a remote repository on GitHub, which they're almost always called origin. Just call it origin. We can worry about what that means later. But we want to connect this thing to this remote repository that is located here, github.com/r12/cmsi1010.git. That's basically this thing right here with the .git after it. But now the issue is if anybody, if one of your friends or worse, your enemy, were able to just type this thing in just like this and be able to write to your GitHub, that would be really sad. What we want to do is we want to be able to make sure that we are what's called authenticated. Like we need to have some kind of a password in this, what we call a URL. We need to have a password in there. And the way that the simplest way to get your password in there, or some kind of an authentication mechanism in there, is to use what GitHub calls a personal access token. So we want to get our personal access token inside of this URL. The way you do that is you jump back to GitHub, click on the little picture over there, and go down to settings. So this is the settings for you, the user. So you can see that we're on our settings page and scroll all the way down on the left to developer settings. Go to personal access tokens. You can pick a classic token, say generate a new token. Classic is good. And we'll just call this our 1010 token. And you can pick how long your token is good for. Since you're probably in a class that's probably going to last no more than 3 months, so 90 days is perfectly fine. 60 days is fine. You can even choose it to never expire if you want to, or pick your own date. 60 or 90 days is probably fine if you're just using it for a class like we are right here. So I'm going to hit 60 days. And then you can check repo. If you want to check the other ones, you can too. But for a student in a class, simply checking repo is all you really need to do. And then you're going to hit generate token. Okay, so there's a token that I generated. Now I am going to delete this token before this video, even before you're even able to see this video. So I'm not silly by showing you what my token is or anything like that. I mean, it's here, but I'm going to delete it after. But what you want to do when you generate your token, make sure you copy it, copy to the clipboard, then go back to your terminal, and in your terminal, you're going to paste it right here after the two slashes, and then you're going to type an @ symbol like this. Okay, so now what you have on the command line says this. I'm going to be somewhat careful here, but you only have to do this once. Get remote, add origin. And then after https:// what you have here is your token, then an @ sign, then the rest of the URL. So github.com/your name, whatever that is, slash then CMSI1010.git. Now, when you add that, when you enter that, sorry, this now the work that you're doing on your laptop is now connected to GitHub. So you can just say at this time, you can say git push, and push says take all the commits on your laptop and push them up to GitHub. So if we go back to GitHub, like we can go here to your repositories, there's a repository called CMSI 1010. You can now see that, hey, I've pushed lab 1, lab 2, and lab 3. And we can even click on here and look at them. You can see simple triangles. You can see the README for lab 1. You can go back here and see some more stuff if you want. It's like it's all here. Which is pretty good. You can also, at 1010, you can also take a look at where the commits that you made. All right, so I'm zoomed in a little bit. If I zoom out a little bit, it says I have 2 commits. I can click on that, and you can see that the first commit I made was adding the first 3 labs. It shows you what you committed for the very first commit, and then I can go back and we can look and see what was done on the second commit, right? So the second commit is when I added the phrase, that is all. So we're able to see. And you can always go back to your repo way up here at the top and take a look at what you have. You can see that my three lab folders are here, but there's this message saying, hey, add a README. You should really have a README at the very, very top level so that people know what's going on. It's kind of bad practice not to have the README at the very top level. It's nice to have READMEs inside, but let's get a README added over here so you can see how it all works. So let's go back to VS Code and let's put in a README at the very top level. See, I have a README inside of Lab 1, I have a README inside of Lab 2, but I want a top level README, not there. Well, if I do make a README right here, that's not going to like that. How do we do it? How do we get one? Well, you can always go over here. You can always say, make sure in the 1010 folder, you can always touch readme.md. If you can't figure out how to create files over here, you can always do it that way. Now you can say CMSI 1010. You can say my laboratories and problem sets for the CMSI 1010 course. Okay, that might be good enough. Then you can hit save there. And again, remember, get status says, hey, README is untracked. And then you do your thing, get add dot, get commit. You can say add the top level README, might be good. Then you can say get, after get add, get commit, get push. So remember, add, commit, push, add, commit, push. Say that to yourself like 50 times fast, and it should be helpful. Back to GitHub and see what happens. So all we have to do here is just reload this page. And when you reload this page, you can see that the top level README right here has now been added. And we now have 3 commits, right? We did the first 3 labs, we added a little bit, and then we added our top level README. The commit will always show you what was done if necessary. And there you go. That is your introduction to getting everything set up with GitHub. You know what I'm going to do next? I am going to go delete that personal access token before I publish this video to YouTube. You might want to check to see if I really did that if you want to, but no, I'm going to delete that token. You don't have to delete your token, obviously. Keep that token on your laptop and nowhere else but your laptop, and don't let anybody else see it because that's the way you authenticate and that's the way you keep your repo safe. That's all for now. I hope you found that useful.